Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today will be the last class for our Caitanya Caritamrta reading. So we're right at the end of Antya Leela, chapter 20. We just have maybe another 30 verses to cover, then we'll finish the whole Caitanya Caritamrta. And so next week onwards, Ghanshyam Prabhu will be starting a new lecture series on Krishna book. And these classes will be on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday nights. So same time, 7:30. Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, Ghanshyam Prabhu will be going through the Krishna book, and he'll be talking about Krishna Lila from Krishna book along with different verses from 10th canto of Bhagavatam also. So we'll be combining Krishna book and 10th canto together, and we'll be covering all the different pastimes of Krishna Lila. So we'll continue on. So we're right at the end of Antya Leela, chapter 20, text number 126. In the 15th chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered a garden on the seashore and mistook it for Vrindavan. So now in this final portion of Antya, of the 20th chapter Antya Leela, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is giving a whole summary of Antya Leela. So you'll see Srila Vyasadeva, he will do a similar thing in Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, at the end of, as we know, in 10th canto Bhagavatam, it's all about Krishna's pastimes. Before Srila Vyasadeva will talk about Krishna's pastimes in 10th canto. At the end of 9th canto, in the last chapter, if you look, he will give a whole summary of Krishna Lila. And then he will talk all of Krishna's pastimes, Vrindavan Lila, Mathura Lila, Dwarka Lila. Then after finishing all of Krishna Lila, in the last chapter, again, Srila Vyasadeva will give a summary of all of Krishna's pastimes. And then you see the same thing Srila Vyasadeva doing in 12th canto of Bhagavatam. In 12th canto of Bhagavatam, at the end, Srila Vyasadeva will again give a full summary of Srimad Bhagavatam. Whatever he's discussed in the entire 12 cantos, Vyasadeva will again give a summary. So this same technique, that Srila Vyasadeva is using to write his Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he's also following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. So he's seeing how Srila Vyasadeva, he gives a summary, then describes, then again he gives another summary, so that the reader, when they're reading, it will sink in, they won't miss anything. So following in the footsteps of Srila Vyasadeva, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, at the start of every chapter, he will give a verse summarizing whatever that chapter is going to talk about. And then at the end of Adi Leela, Madhya Leela, and now we're seeing at the end of Antya Leela, he is giving a whole summary of all the topics in that particular section. So now in this final verses, he is giving a summary of the entire Antya Leela. Text 127. Also in that chapter is a description of the attraction of Lord Chaitanya's 5 senses to Krishna and how he searched for Krishna in the rasa dance. The 16th chapter tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to Kalidas and thus demonstrated the result of eating the remnants of the food of Vaishnavas. So it was said that Mahaprabhu, he was very strict when it came to giving the dust of his feet to anyone. So as a strict sannyasi, he wouldn't let anyone touch his lotus feet. But Kalidas, he is given as one exception to this. And for Kalidas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he allowed him to wash his lotus feet and drink his Maha Charanamrit 3 times. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just before entering Jagannath temple, he allowed Kalidas to wash his feet and take the Charanamrit and drink it 3 times. And when other devotees, they saw this, they were astonished, because generally Mahaprabhu would never let anyone touch his feet, let alone wash his feet and take his Maha water. But with Kalidas, Mahaprabhu made this exception. And the reason given is because Mahaprabhu was very pleased with Kalidas. What did Kalidas do to please Mahaprabhu? Because of his faith in Vaishnavas, his faith in the Mahaprasad of Vaishnavas. So as we sing every day in the morning, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasado. By pleasing the Vaishnavas, one pleases the Supreme Lord. Or by pleasing the spiritual master, one pleases the Supreme Lord. So when we have strong faith in the mercy of the Vaishnavas, in the power of their remnants, their Mahaprasad, then Krishna, he is very pleased. And that's what we see with the pastime of Kalidas. It is said that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says, 3 things we should some or other obtain from Vaishnavas. One is the dust of the lotus feet, or water which has washed those lotus feet. Second one is their remnants or foodstuffs they have eaten, their Mahaprasad. And the third one, I forgot the, I think one of them is dust, another one is Chandramrit, and the third one is their Mahaprasad. So some or other, at all costs, these 3 different types of Mahaprasad should be obtained from Vaishnavas. And they have great spiritual potency. And one can advance very quickly by taking Mahaprasad of senior Vaishnavas. And that's how we see Narad Muni. That's how Narad Muni became Narad Muni. So it said Narad Muni, he is Shaktavesh, avatar of the Lord, empowered with Bhakti Shakti. Whoever Narad Muni wants, he can make into a devotee. And we see throughout Bhagavatam, so many great exalted devotees. Their spiritual master is Narad Muni. Dhruva Maharaja's spiritual master, Narad Muni. Mrigari, his spiritual master is Narad Muni. Like this, throughout Shastras, we come across so many great exalted personalities, like Prahlad Maharaj. All their spiritual master is Narad Muni. So how did Narad Muni become such a great exalted devotee? In his past life, for 4 months during Chaturmasa, he was simply taking the Mahaprasad of great sages every day. And just by taking that Mahaprasad, he became so elevated that he became Narad Muni in his next life. So that is the power of taking the remnants of Vaishnavas. It also describes how Sivananda's sons composed a verse and how the doorkeeper of the Simhadwara showed Krishna to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also in that chapter, the glories of Mahaprasad are explained. And a verse is tasted describing the effect of nectar from the lips of Krishna. The 17th chapter recounts how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell among the cows and assumed the form of a tortoise as his ecstatic emotions awakened. That chapter also tells how the attributes of Krishna's sound attracted the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who then described in ecstasy the meaning of the Kastri Angate verse. So remember in 17th chapter we're talking about how there's 4 different sounds produced from the transcendental body of Krishna. And these 4 different sounds, they completely mesmerize the gopis of Vrindavan, mesmerize Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what are these 4 transcendental sounds? One is the sound coming from Krishna's flute. So when the gopis, they would hear Krishna's flute, they would forget everything else and they would just completely absorb their minds in that sound. Second is the sound produced by Krishna's bangles. So the sound of Krishna's bangles would also produce a very beautiful sound. And whenever the devotees would hear that, they would, again, their mind will be completely absorbed in that sound. Third is the sound of Krishna's ankle bells. So if you take darshan of our Gopinath, you'll also see at 9 o'clock he'll have some bangles he's wearing on his arms, on his wrist, and also on his ankles he'll have anklets also. So that's the third sound. And the fourth is the sound coming from Krishna's mouth. His very beautiful, sweet speech. So these 4 different sound vibrations produced from Krishna's body, they used to completely mesmerize all the inhabitants of Vrindavan and the gopis. So that was described in 17th chapter. The 17th chapter also tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, due to the conjunction of various ecstatic emotions, again began speaking like a madman and described in detail the meaning of a verse from the Krishna Karnamrita. In the 18th chapter is an account of how the Lord fell into the ocean and in ecstasy saw in a dream the pastime of a water fight between Krishna and the gopis. In that dream, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Krishna's picnic in the forest. As Lord Chaitanya floated in the sea, a fisherman caught him, and then the Lord returned to his own residence. All this is recounted in the 18th chapter. In the 19th chapter is a description of how Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu rubbed his face against the walls and spoke like a madman because of separation from Krishna. That chapter also describes Krishna's wandering in a garden on a spring night, and it fully describes the meaning of a verse about the scent of Krishna's body. The 20th chapter tells how Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu recited his own 8 stanzas of instruction and tasted their meaning in ecstatic love. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu composed those 8 stanzas to instruct the devotees, but he also personally tasted their meaning. I have thus repeated the principal pastimes and their meaning, for by such repetition one can remember the descriptions in the book. In every chapter there are various topics, but I have repeated only those that are principal, for not all of them could be described again. The Vrindavan deities of Madan Mohan with Srimati Radharani, Govinda with Srimati Radharani, and Gopinath with Srimati Radharani are the life and the soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So that my desires may be fulfilled, I place the lotus feet of these personalities on my head, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, and their devotees, as well as Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, who is my spiritual master, and Srila Jiva Goswami. The mercy of their lotus feet is my spiritual master, and my words are my disciples, whom I have made dance in various ways. Seeing the fatigue of the disciples, the spiritual master has stopped making them dance, and because that mercy no longer makes them dance, my words now sit silently. So Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami, with great humility, he is explaining about his situation. He is explaining that actually it is simply by the mercy of the superior Vaishnavas, my spiritual masters, like Sarup Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, so on and so forth, that I have been able to compose this book. And he is not taking any credit for himself. He is saying whatever I've written, whatever I've spoken, is simply by the mercy of these great devotees. And he is saying that the mercy of these superior Vaishnavas, they are like the Guru, they are like the spiritual master, and the words that are coming out of my mouth, they are like the disciples of the spiritual master. And he is saying, now seeing the fatigue of the disciples, the spiritual master has stopped making them dance, and because that mercy no longer makes them dance, my words now sit silently. So he's saying the lotus feet of the superior Vaishnavas, like the Panchatattva, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, it was by their mercy I was speaking. So their mercy is like the Guru, the spiritual master, and the words that was emanating from my mouth are like the disciples of the Guru. But now my power of speech, it's getting fatigued. And when the Guru is seeing that the disciples are slowly, losing energy, getting tired, then the Guru is stop making the disciples dance. So what Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami is saying is that, I'm becoming elderly in age, my breath is slowly coming out, and now because of that, the mercy has stopped, and now I need to conclude this book. Because if you remember, Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami previously explains, or Prabhupada explains that when Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami, he wrote this book, he was more than 90 years old. So you can imagine, a 90-year-old person composing such a huge piece of literature. And Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami, he himself explains that as he is writing this book, his hand is shivering. Because back then they used to scribe in palm leaves, all the Shastras. So as he is scribing the Shastra in palm leaves, his hand was shivering because of his old age. So you can imagine a 90-year-old person writing so many, thousands of slokas. And he is explaining that, his vision is slowly fading as he is writing. He can barely even see what he is writing. And his hands are shivering, his whole body is shivering. And he's explaining that he doesn't know when, his soul will leave the body. He doesn't know when he's going to die. At any second, he can just give up his body. So in that elderly condition, Srila Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami has written such a great transcendental literature. So now he is saying that whatever I've written is simply by the mercy of the superior Vaishnavas, by the mercy of the Acharyas. Otherwise, it's not possible for a person like me in such advanced age to write such a literature. I was simply being empowered by my authorities, and based on the empowerment, words were coming out of my mouth, and I was speaking whatever I was speaking. And if you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, Srila Prabhupada also, he had a similar mood. When devotees used to come to Srila Prabhupada and glorify Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada, your books are amazing, we love your Krishna book is so nice and sweet. Prabhupada used to never take any credit. Instead, Prabhupada used to say that actually I didn't write this book. Actually Krishna, he dictated to me, and whatever Krishna dictated, I just heard and I just wrote down, or I just spoke. So in this way, Prabhupada used to give full credit to Krishna. Especially in regard to his Krishna book, Prabhupada used to say, many times Srila Prabhupada, he used to read his own Krishna book himself, particularly in the evening. So some temples, they used to have a garden area of the temple, and in the evenings, when the sun would be down and it would be a little cool outside, Prabhupada used to go into the garden, and Prabhupada would get one of his disciples to read Krishna book out loud. And Prabhupada used to hear his own Krishna book. And then some disciples, they asked Prabhupada, how is it, generally we don't see authors reading their own books, or we don't see authors, hearing their own books. Generally they read some other books. But how is it you're reading your own books? And Prabhupada's response to this question was that, actually this is not my book. I haven't written this book. Actually, Krishna, he dictated to me. This is Krishna's book. Whatever Krishna dictated, I just simply wrote down. This is not my book. This is completely done by Krishna. So in this way, Prabhupada said about his Krishna book. So Prabhupada also in the same mood, he didn't take any credit. He said that actually it's all Krishna's doing. Krishna was just dictating to me, and whatever Krishna dictated, I was simply writing. So Krishna book especially is very special. And one time Prabhupada also, he told devotees that out of all of his books, so Prabhupada's written, more than 60, 70 different volumes of books. Out of all of these books, Prabhupada once said that his favorite book is Krishna book. So if you look at Prabhupada's pastimes, the main book of his, which he used to read more than any other book, was his Krishna book. So in the late afternoon, Prabhupada would just sit back and get one of his disciples to read Krishna book, and Prabhupada would just enjoy. So Prabhupada once he said, out of all of his books, he likes his Krishna book the most, which is a whole summary of the 10 cantos. So we'll be going through that from next week onwards. Ghanshyam Prabhu will be going through that. My inexperienced words do not know how to dance by themselves. The mercy of the Guru made them dance as much as possible. And now after dancing, they have taken rest. So same thing, again, Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami, he's further highlighting. He's saying that actually my words are inexperienced. They don't know how to describe Mahaprabhu's pastime. They don't know how to compose poetry or describe the Supreme Lord's qualities, so on and so forth. But although my words are inexperienced, they've been made to dance by my spiritual master. And my spiritual master has somehow or other used my words to compose this wonderful literature. But now after dancing so much, now my words have become tired, and now they need to take rest. I now worship the lotus feet of all my readers, for by the mercy of their lotus feet, there is all good fortune. So this is another even more astonishing statement by Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami. So we can understand him offering respect to his guru, that okay, I'm not qualified, whatever I've written is not due to my skill or talents, it's due to the mercy of my spiritual master. So we can understand that, of why he is offering respects to his spiritual masters. But now he is saying, not only am I offering respects to my spiritual masters, but also now I am going to offer obeisances at the lotus feet of all my readers. So this is something astonishing. Why is he offering obeisances at the lotus feet of whoever is reading this book? I now worship the lotus feet of all my readers, for by the mercy of their lotus feet, there is all good fortune. So again, he is showing his, his immense humility. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's vision is that whoever is reading this book, they naturally must be devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, why would they read this book about Mahaprabhu's pastimes? So because his view is like this, that whoever is reading this book which I have written must be a devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so they are all worshipful for me. Any devotee of Mahaprabhu, no matter who they are, where they are coming from, they are my masters, I am their servant. As service to their lotus feet, I am composing this book. So they can derive some pleasure, and so they can further relish Mahaprabhu's pastime. So this is his humble mood in which he is writing. He is seeing his readers as great devotees of Mahaprabhu, and he is seeing his writing this book as a small service rendered at the lotus feet of his readers, who he is seeing as worshipable devotees of Mahaprabhu. That's why before we give Bhagavatam class or before we sit on Vyasasana, you'll always see the speaker, he'll first bow down. And he bows down and does Vancha Kalpatarubhasa. So before anyone sits on the Vyasasana, the first thing he does is he offers obeisances to everyone who is in the audience. Because anyone who is here present to hear Krishna Katha, they are worshipable. They are great persons to be offered obeisances to. So therefore, before any speaker he gets on the Vyasasana, he first offers obeisances to the entire audience, to whoever is sitting in the audience. Then again, after he finishes speaking Krishna Katha, after he gets off the Vyasasana, again he does Vanchakalpatarubhasa. Again he offers obeisances to everyone in the audience. So that is the mood in which all speakers, they're supposed to speak about Krishna. Their mood in speaking is supposed to be that of service. That everyone sitting in the audience, they're all great Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. As small service to the lotus feet, let me speak something about Krishna. So that is the mood Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is showing by his example. In that mood we all have to follow also. I now worship the lotus feet of all my readers, for by the mercy of the lotus feet there is all good fortune. If one hears the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as described in Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, I wash his lotus feet and drink the water. So he's saying that anyone who reads this book of his, he will consider him so exalted that he will personally come and wash their lotus feet. He'll personally come, bathe the lotus feet and take the Chandramrit. So such great humility he has. I decorate my head with the dust of the lotus feet of my audience. Now you have all drunk this nectar, and therefore my labor is successful. So he's saying, for all my readers, they're all great exalted personalities. So for all my readers, I will personally wash their lotus feet, and I will take their dust, and I will decorate my head with the dust of the lotus feet of anyone who is reading this book. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunatha, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, following in their footsteps. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta is filled with the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Personality Godhead himself. It invokes all good fortune and destroys everything inauspicious. If one tastes the nectar of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta with faith and love, I become like a bumblebee tasting the honey of transcendental love from his lotus feet. Since this book, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, is now complete, having been written for the satisfaction of the most opulent deities, Madan Mohan Ji and Govinda Ji, let it be offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dev. So any service we do, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is showing us that it should always be done in the mood of pleasure or satisfying the Supreme Lord. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is saying that this book which I have written simply for the pleasure of Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji and Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ji, the two principal deities of Vrindavan Dham. So in the same way, any service that we do, we should do that service in the mood or the mindset of pleasing Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, our deities here in Sydney. And that is the perfection of our service. In second chapter of first canto, Srila Sutta Goswami, he says that the success of any service we do is the satisfaction of the Lord. So that is how we judge whether our service is a success or a failure. Just like when we go to work, our boss or a company we're working for, they'll have different KPI, key performance indicators. And they will judge us, based on these KPIs. Based on this, this, and this, they will judge whether you're doing a good job or a bad job. So in Bhakti, what is the KPI? What is the, margin by which we judge whether we're actually making progress or not? So that is, Sutta Goswami explains in 2nd chapter, 1st canto, that is the satisfaction of the Lord. If by our service, Krishna is satisfied, then that service is a success. How do we know if Krishna is satisfied by our service? By Krishna's representatives. So the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, they act as the representative of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So if the Vaishnavas, if our spiritual authorities, they are satisfied with our service, then we can take it that Krishna is satisfied, then our service is a success. Externally, it might seem that we failed. But if Krishna is satisfied, it's a success. Classical example is that of Jatayu in Ramayana. So we all know the famous pastime of Jatayu that comes in Ramayana. Jatayu, he sees Ravana kidnapping Mother Sita. And he tries to stop Ravana. And he fights intensely with Ravana. And is he successful in defeating Ravana? No, he fails. Ravana cuts off his wing and Jatayu falls down. And Ravana, he takes away Mother Sita. So, externally it seems that Jatayu failed. He was supposed to stop Ravana and rescue Mother Sita. He tried his best to fight, but Ravana was too strong. And Ravana defeated Jatayu, and Jatayu fell down. Then Lord Ramachandra comes. Does Lord Ramachandra see Jatayu as a failure? No. He is very much satisfied with Jatayu's devotional service because he tried his best. So although externally it seems that Jatayu failed, actually his devotional service was a success. Because again, remember the criteria by which we judge whether our service is successful or not is based on Krishna's satisfaction. So Lord Ramachandra, he was satisfied. He was very pleased with Jatayu's heroism, his great courage in fighting Ravana. Although Ravana was so much stronger, Jatayu still, he risked his life to try and rescue Mother Sita. So Lord Ramachandra, he saw the mood, he saw the intention, and he was very pleased with that. So although it seemed that externally Jatayu failed, actually he was successful. Because the Supreme Lord was pleased with his service. So same case with us. Many times we will do a particular service. Externally it might seem that we didn't do a good job, but still, when the other Vaishnavas if the other Vaishnavas are pleased with our service, if our spiritual authorities are pleased with our service, then we can take it Krishna is pleased, and then we can take it as a success. For example, book distribution, we might go out to distribute books, and we might not distribute so many books. So based on our own mind, we will think, today wasn't such a successful day, because I couldn't distribute so many books. But, the temple authorities, the other devotees, they're happy with our efforts, because we tried our best. So all the other devotees happy, then we can take it, Krishna is also happy. So although externally we might not be able to get certain results, still if the Vaishnavas are pleased, then that is success. And on the other hand, the opposite is also true. Although externally it might seem to be a success, if it's displeasing to the Vaishnavas, then Krishna won't be satisfied. Then our service is a failure. For example, Duryodhana, right? He invited Krishna for lunch, and he arranged for a big chapan bhog, right? He arranged for 50, 100 different items. He's like the prince, so he has so much opulence, a whole room full of prasad. He arranged for Krishna, and he invited Krishna. So externally it seems that his service is a success. He created so many wonderful bhoga offerings for Krishna. But did Krishna accept? No, Krishna he rejected. Instead of going to Duryodhana's house, he went to Vidura's house. Because Duryodhana, he didn't have any love for Krishna. So although externally it seems that Duryodhana, he did a good job. He was able to arrange 100 different bhoga offerings for Krishna. But Krishna wasn't pleased with his service, because he didn't have any love towards Krishna. So, based on 2nd chapter, 1st canto, actually Duryodhana's service was a failure. On the other hand, Vidura, you look at what happened in Vidura's house. What was Vidura's wife feeding Krishna? She was opening the banana, throwing out the banana pulp, and giving Krishna the banana peel to eat. And Krishna was eating the banana peel. So externally, if you look, she is doing disservice to Krishna, right? No one would feed Krishna banana peels. We have fruit offering for Shri Shri Radha Gopinath every day before 4 o'clock. And, if a pujari is putting, banana peels on the offering plate, he would be heavily chastised, by a DT department committee. But that's what Vidura's wife was doing. She was throwing away the banana pulp and giving the banana peel. So externally it seems that she is failing. But Krishna is satisfied, which means her service is successful. Because Krishna is just seeing the mood, the love in which she is offering. So this is how Bhagavatam explains, we judge whether the service we're doing is a success or failure, whether the service we're doing is good or bad. How do we judge? It's by the satisfaction of Krishna. How do we know if Krishna is satisfied with our service? By the other Vaishnavas and our spiritual authorities. If our spiritual authority is happy with our efforts, then we can take it. Krishna is also happy. Although externally it might not seem that we are doing something good, still if the Vaishnava is pleased, Krishna will be pleased. Realized devotees like bumblebees maddened by their own mellows at Krishna's lotus feet. The scent of those lotus feet perfumes the entire world. Who is the realized soul that could give them up? In Vrindavan, in the year 1537, Sakaba era, AD 1615, in the month of Jyesta, May to June, on Sunday, the 5th day of the waning moon, this Caitanya Caritamrta has been completed. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Antya Lila, 20th chapter describing the meaning of the Siksastika and how the Lord tasted it himself. End of the Antya Lila. So that concludes the whole Caitanya Caritamrta. There is one more section after this, it's called Concluding Words. It's given by Srila Prabhupada also. I'll just read a bit of it because it's also very nice. So this is Srila Prabhupada writing in the concluding words. Today, Sunday, November 10, 1974, corresponding to the 10th of Kartik, Chaitanya era 488, the 11th day of the dark fortnight, the Rama Ekadasi, we have now finished the English translation of Sri Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, in accordance with the authorized order of His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj, my beloved eternal spiritual master, guide and friend. So Prabhupada is giving the exact day in which he finished this book. So it was on a Sunday, Prabhupada finished, November 10, 1974. And the day when Prabhupada finished Caitanya Caritamrta, it was on Ekadasi, during Kartik Mas. So Kartik Mas is also coming soon for us. And particularly Prabhupada finished on Rama Ekadasi. So maybe, I think that Rama Ekadasi is just a month away from now, or maybe even less. So on Rama Ekadasi during Kartik Mas, that was the exact day when Prabhupada finished Caitanya Caritamrta. Although according to material vision, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, passed away from this material world on the last day of December, 1936, I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me by His Vani, His words. There are two ways of association, by Vani and by Vapu. Vani means words and Vapu means physical presence. Physical presence is sometimes appreciable and sometimes not, but Vani continues to exist eternally. Therefore, we must take advantage of the Vani, not the physical presence. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, is the Vani of Lord Krishna. Although Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago and is no longer physically present, from the materialistic point of view, the Bhagavad Gita continues. So Prabhupada is giving the credit for Caitanya Caritamrta to his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He is saying that it is simply based on the order of my spiritual master I have translated Caitanya Caritamrta. It was my spiritual master's desire that this wonderful book be translated into English, and I simply attempted to fulfill his desire. And he's calling his spiritual master as his eternal master, guide, and friend. So these are three different ways we're supposed to relate with our spiritual master or guru. The spiritual master is our master, and we're supposed to be his servant. But the spiritual master is also our guide, which means he will guide us through our lives. And also, thirdly, Prabhupada is saying that my spiritual master was my friend also. So these are three different ways a guru and a disciple, they relate. So there's the relationship of master and servant, guide, and there's also friendship. So there's supposed to be some friendship between the guru and disciple. And Prabhupada is saying, although my spiritual master, he passed away many decades ago. So Prabhupada, he finished this book in 1974, and Prabhupada is saying that his spiritual master passed away on the last day of December. So of December 31st, 1936, Prabhupada is saying his spiritual master passed away from this world. So that was more than nearly 40 years ago, 40 years before Prabhupada finished CC. So Prabhupada is saying, although 4 decades have passed since my spiritual master has gone away, still I never feel any absence from my spiritual master. How so? Prabhupada is saying that there's 2 ways we can associate with Guru. One is through Vani, another is through Vapu. Vapu means the physical body, Vani means through instructions. And Prabhupada is saying there is no difference between the two. In fact, Prabhupada, other places he explains that associating with the Guru, with Vani, is more powerful, is more intimate. And Prabhupada is saying that although my spiritual master passed away 40 years ago, not for a moment, not for a day, I ever felt absence of my spiritual master. I feel that my spiritual master is my heart, always there present with me. So that same, conviction that Srila Prabhupada has, we can also take with us. And that we're never alone. Our spiritual master or spiritual masters are always there, present with us in our hearts. And Prabhupada also explains that actually, like the entire altar is actually within our hearts. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, they're in our hearts. Jagannath Baladev Subhadramani, Gaur Nitai, the entire Guru Parampara, 6 Goswamis, Panchatattva, Prabhupada explains, the whole altar which we see is actually present within our hearts. And we're never alone, they're always there to help us. Even Srimati Tulsi Marni, we're all wearing Kantimala. Srimati Tulsi Devi, she's also always with us. And most of us, we wear Nashima Kavach. If we don't have Nashima Kavach, you can get one from temple shop. So Nashima Dev, he is also present with us. So Lord Nashima Dev is always with us. Tulsi Marni is always with us. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath always with us. And the entire Guru Parampara, they're always with us in our hearts. So in this way, Prabhupada is explaining that we're never alone. We have the full backing of the previous acharyas of Tulsi Marni, Nashima Dev, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So we don't have anything to fear. Any difficulties, any obstacles come in life, we have so many different personalities to take shelter of. We can take shelter of Tulsi Marni, we can take shelter of Nashima Dev, Radha Gopinath, our spiritual masters, so on and so forth. In this connection, we may call to memory the time when I was fortunate enough to meet His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, sometime in the year 1922. So Prabhupada, he's remembering the first time he met his spiritual master, and that was in 1922. Srila Prabhupada had come to Calcutta from Sridham, Mayapur. So Prabhupada, he is addressing his spiritual master as Srila Prabhupada. So for us, Srila Prabhupada is Prabhupada, but for Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is addressing his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, as Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada had come to Calcutta from Sridham, Mayapur to start the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math. He was sitting in a house at Ulta Danga when, through the inducement of an intimate friend, the late Sriman Narendranath Mulik, I had the opportunity to meet His Divine Grace for the first time. This place where Prabhupada met his spiritual master for the first time, it's called Ulta Danga. And even today, you can still go and see this place. And it's been occupied by ISKCON. And ISKCON is maintaining that facility. Even today, you can go to this place. I think it's in Calcutta or near Mayapur, where Prabhupada first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I had the opportunity to meet His Divine Grace for the first time. I do not remember the actual date of the meeting, but at that time, I was one of the managers of Dr. Bose's lab in Calcutta. I was a newly married young man, addicted to Gandhi's movement and dressed in khadi. Fortunately, even at our first meeting, His Divine Grace advised me to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English in the Western countries. Because at that time I was a complete nationalist, a follower of Mahatma Gandhi, I submitted to His Divine Grace that unless our country were freed from foreign subjugation, no one would hear the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seriously. Of course, we had some agreement in this subject, but at last I was defeated and convinced that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message is the only panacea for suffering humanity. I was also convinced that the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was then in the hands of a very expert devotee, and that surely the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would spread all over the world. I could not, however, immediately take up his instructions to preach, but I took his words very seriously and was always thinking of how to execute his order, although I was quite unfit to do so. So after finishing Caitanya Caritamrta, Prabhupada, he's remembering his spiritual master, how he first met him in 1922. And Prabhupada, he's feeling great gratitude toward his spiritual master. Prabhupada is saying that 1922, I was a young married man, I had a wife and children, I was a pharmacist, and at that time, I was a strict nationalist. I was a follower of Gandhi's independence movement. And when I met my spiritual master, I was arguing with him that first we need to get independence, first we need to free India from British rule, then we can do all this religious preaching, then we can talk about Mahaprabhu, then we can talk about Bhakti, Krishna consciousness. But first we must get independence from the British. That is of prior need. But then Prabhupada explains how his spiritual master defeated in an argument and convinced him that actually the greatest need of the hour is actually Krishna consciousness. This is more important than anything else, and this is something that takes more priority than political things, like whether we're subjugated by another country or not. And in this way, Prabhupada is explaining that in that meeting he was convinced about the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, about the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada, he's seeing that as the seed from which this Caitanya Caritamrta has come about. So Prabhupada is thinking, if I hadn't met my spiritual master in 1922, then I would have continued on in Gandhi's movement. And I would have got into politics, I would have maybe never got into this. So in this way, Prabhupada is remembering back, 40, 50 years ago when he met his spiritual master, and how his spiritual master convinced him to take full shelter of Mahaprabhu's mission. So in this way, Prabhupada is, out of humility, giving the credit to his spiritual master, so what he has written. And Prabhupada is saying, at that time, he had got the instruction to preach in the English language. And Prabhupada is saying that ever since that day, I have always been thinking about how to fulfill this instruction. And when did Prabhupada actually fulfill the instruction? 40, 50 years later. So the actual instruction by his spiritual master was given in 1922, and only in 1970s did Prabhupada actually fulfill the instruction that his spiritual master had given him. But during the entire 40, 50 years, Prabhupada explains, he was constantly meditating on that instruction. That my spiritual master asked me to do this, somehow or other I have to do this. And during his entire Grahastha life, Vanaprastha life, Sannyas life, Prabhupada was working towards that goal. So as a Grahastha, Prabhupada used to translate Bhagavad Gita, as we know. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he explains, he spoke to one of the sons of Srila Prabhupada. And one of the sons of Srila Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Maharaj that Prabhupada, when he was a Grahastha, every day he used to read Bhagavatam for 4 hours. 4 hours of Srimad Bhagavatam study every day. Not only that, every day as a Grahastha, Prabhupada used to wake up early in the morning and do his own deity worship. Every day he used to wake up his own deities, bathe his own deities, and dress his deities. So Prabhupada had a very strict worship set up for his own personal home deities. So every day he would do his daily puja for his deities. Then after that, he would also study Bhagavatam for 4 hours every day. So during his whole Grahastha life, Prabhupada was preparing, making commentaries for Gita, studying Bhagavatam, because that instruction is there, that sometime in future, when I'm ready, I need to go to the West and preach in the English language and deliver the Western countries. So it is said that we might not be able to immediately fulfill an instruction we've gotten from our spiritual master. But if we simply meditate on the instruction and meditate on how to carry out that instruction, that itself is a big achievement, that itself is very purifying, and that itself is a great success. For example, the instruction Srila Prabhupada got to preach in Western countries, Prabhupada wasn't able to fulfill it immediately. He wasn't able to fulfill it in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Only after 40 or 50 years, Prabhupada was finally able to fulfill that instruction. But during the entire 40 years, Prabhupada was always meditating on the instruction, how to fulfill it, and he was always working towards fulfilling the instruction. So whatever instructions comes to us from our spiritual master, some we might be able to do immediately, others it might require some time before we can fulfill. But as long as we're constantly meditating on how to fulfill the instruction, that is a success. And that meditation on the instruction is itself a success, and is itself will purify us and help us advance in spiritual life. In this way, I passed my life as a householder until 1950, when I retired from family life as a vanaprastha. With no companion, I loitered here and there until 1958, when I took sannyas. So Prabhupada is saying for nearly 8 years. So he retired from household life at 1950, and then he became vanaprastha. And Prabhupada is saying from 1950 to 1958, for 8 years, he was just loitering here and there with no assistant. 8 years, just imagine, just as a single person going here and there. Then he took sannyas in 1958. Then I was completely ready to discharge the order of my spiritual master. Previously in 1936, just before His Divine Grace passed away at Jagannath Puri, I wrote him a letter asking him what I could do to serve him. In reply, he wrote me a letter dated 13 December 1936, ordering me in the same way to preach in English the cult of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu as I had heard it from him. So right in the first meeting, when Prabhupada met his spiritual master, he got the instruction to preach in the West. And again, in the final days, just before his spiritual master left this world, Prabhupada wrote a letter to his guru, asking, how can I serve you? Can you please give me some service to render at Julasri? Again, the same instruction he gave him in his first meeting. Again, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he repeated again the same instruction, that you preach Mahaprabhu's mission in the English language in the Western world. Okay, we've covered maybe half of the concluding words. We'll stop here. We're a bit over time. It's 8:34. Shri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Gaur Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol.